Have you ever had a baby stare at you so intensely that it felt like they knew something you didn't? No loud laughter, no looking away right away, just silently staring at you with wide, focused eyes for so long that it starts to feel a little strange. Surrounded by so many people, so many sounds, and so much movement, why does that baby seem to be looking only at you? Many people think it is just a child's innocent curiosity, but what if that gaze is actually deeper than that? In this video, we will explore the psychology behind why babies stare at you and what they truly want to say without ever speaking a word. At first glance, the most common explanation for why babies stare at you sounds very reasonable. It is simply because their vision is still limited, and that is true. In the first month, a baby looks at you first and foremost because you are one of the few things those still developing eyes can actually focus on. During the first weeks of life, babies usually see best at a distance of about 8 to 12 inches, which is roughly the distance from the baby's eyes to the face of the person holding or feeding them. The American Academy of Pediatrics, AAP, also notes that by around 1 month of age, babies tend to show a preference for human faces over other patterns. But what is interesting is that this attention may not begin only after birth. A study published in Current Biology in 2017 found that fetuses in the third trimester already tended to orient toward face-like visual stimuli, suggesting that the bias toward recognizing human facial structure may already emerge before birth. After birth, this tendency continues to be reinforced. In his classic study published in Scientific American in 1961, psychologist Robert Fance conducted the following experiment. Babies were shown 6 flat discs, each 6 inches in diameter, with the following designs. 1. A human face. 2. A bullseye pattern. 3. A random fragment of a printed page, such as a newspaper or textbook. 4. A completely red disc. 5. A completely fluorescent yellow disc. And 6. A plain white disc. The length of the infant's first look at each disc was recorded. Which one do you think they looked at the most? If you answered the face, you were right. The babies gazed at the disc, with the human face far more than any other shape or color. In other words, through his preferential looking method, Fance demonstrated that newborns prefer looking at face-like patterns more than any other kind of visual design. Many adults assume it is simply a baby's innocent curiosity about the world around them, but science suggests that there is something much deeper behind that gaze than we might think. From the very first days after birth, babies do not look at everything in the same way. In a study by Ferroni and colleagues published in 2002, scientists found that newborns just 2 to 5 days old already showed a preference for looking at faces with eyes directed straight at them. This means that from the moment they are born, babies are especially sensitive to eye contact, as if their brains are already wired to seek human connection. And that is only the beginning of the story. The American Academy of Pediatrics says that between about 2 and 4 months of age, a baby's distance vision expands. By 6 months, an infant's vision is nearly fully developed, with the ability to see colors and distances almost like an adult. But here is what makes this so interesting. Even after babies can clearly see many more things around them, they still keep coming back to look at you. If it were only because close-up objects are easier to see, their attention should have shifted more toward other things. And yet the human face remains the place where their gaze lingers the longest. That is when a bigger question begins to emerge. What are babies really seeing in you? By 4 to 6 months, a baby is no longer just looking at you, but beginning to draw you into a silent conversation. This is the stage when many babies start smiling to attract attention, looking at you for longer. making sounds or moving in ways that keep you engaged in the interaction. It may seem like a small thing, but it is actually a major shift. The baby is testing whether they can create a response from another person. Even more remarkably, a study by Leong and colleagues, published in the prestigious journal PNAS in 2017, found that when an adult and a baby look directly into each other's eyes, the level of neural synchrony between them increases much more than when their gaze is turned away. In other words, when a baby stares at you, it is not just a matter of seeing with the eyes. On some level, the baby's brain is also tuning into yours. But if this really is a kind of conversation, what happens when one side suddenly falls silent? The answer lies in an experiment so famous that almost anyone who studies infancy knows it. Edward Tronick's still face experiment. In this model, the caregiver first interacts with the baby normally, then suddenly becomes expressionless and stops responding. Review studies have shown that babies typically increase their gaze, intensify their signals, and try to draw the adult back in, then gradually become confused and distressed when no response comes. This demonstrates one very powerful point. Babies are not passive at all. They actively seek emotional feedback, and eye contact is one of the very first tools they use to do it. And as that need for feedback grows stronger, your face begins to take on an even deeper role. By 7 to 9 months of age, your face begins to become a baby's emotional compass. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, around 9 months, many babies start to show stranger anxiety, react more clearly when familiar people leave, and display a wider range of facial expressions such as happiness, sadness, anger, or surprise. This shows that at this stage, a baby's gaze is no longer just about recognizing who is who, but also about figuring out how they should feel in a new situation. When a baby looks back at you in the face of something unfamiliar, they may be silently asking, "Is this okay? Should I move closer or pull away?" And once babies learn to use you as their first emotional map, their next step is to want to share their attention with you as well. From 10 to 12 months of age, that gaze begins to say something even more fascinating. Look with me. In the classic study by Bakeman and Adamson in 1984, the researchers described how infants gradually learn to coordinate attention between people and objects, meaning they no longer just look at you or at an object, but begin linking the two within the same moment. Later, researchers Peter Mundy and Lisa Newell also emphasized that joint attention is a crucial foundation for social cognitive development. So when a baby close to 1-year-old looks at you and then looks back at the object in front of them, it does not simply mean, "I see this." It is almost like an early version of a sentence. I want us to see it together. And that is the moment when staring is no longer just a reaction, but becomes a real bridge between two minds. So the next time a baby stares at you, what is happening may be far greater than the silence on the surface suggests. At first, that gaze grows out of still developing vision. Then it becomes a sign of recognition, then an invitation to interact, then an emotional compass, and finally a bridge for sharing attention with the whole world. It is the same gaze, yet with each passing month, it tells a deeper and deeper story about how a tiny human being learns to connect with another human being. If this video made you see a baby's gaze in a whole new way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves understanding the hidden language of little ones.